Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Learning with Leah. I'm happy to have you join me today in talking about phrasal verbs at work. If you missed the first part and the second part of phrasal verbs with me, make sure you check out the videos here. The first part was just about what are phrasal verbs. I explained details about how to use phrasal verbs and the different kinds of phrasal verbs. Part 2 was all about common phrasal verbs. So make sure you check those out if you missed them. All right, well, let's dive right in and talk about phrasal verbs at work. All right, so here are some of the most common phrasal verbs we use at work. Again, there are so many that we use, but these are just a few of the ones that I think I use a lot in my daily life. So if you want to use phrasal verbs, again, you need to remember phrasal verbs, we use them just like a normal verb. So we can use them in any tense that we want, just as a normal verb. Secondly, phrasal verbs are normally idiomatic. So that means that they kind of act like an idiom many times. So many times the words that you see don't mean literally what they're saying. For example, you might see the words snow or burn or slack, and the meaning of these phrasal verbs has nothing to do with those literal meanings. So that's important to remember when we talk about phrasal verbs, that the meaning is normally different than the literal meaning of the words. So let's dive in and look at each of these individually. So we'll start with the first one, to burn out. So when we talk about burning out, that means that someone is just really exhausted and just really tired many times of working. So if you're burnt out of something, that means you've worked really, really hard and you just feel done. Maybe if you work somewhere for a long time, and maybe many years or many months, and you are just so exhausted, you feel you cannot go one more day. You're just so exhausted from it, maybe mentally and physically. So here's an example. He took a vacation because he was feeling burnt out, right? So if you're feeling really just tired mentally and physically from working, a vacation might be a good way to relax and get away and be able to distract yourself from work. So that's the first one. Number 2 we have is slack off. So to slack off means to stop working as hard as normal. So to work less hard or less than usual. So this is a negative, has a negative connotation. So it's not good if you slack off. Okay, so if someone's slacking off, that means they are not meeting the standards or the expectations. So if you're supposed to be working this hard, maybe someone's only giving in this much effort. So they're slacking off. Okay, so the example, quit slacking off, get back to work, right? Maybe if someone's on their phone, on Facebook, maybe they're talking to their coworkers, they are slacking off. They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're working less hard than they should. Number 3, to be snowed under. Okay, so if you are snowed under, it doesn't mean that there's snow on you and you're under the snow. Okay, it doesn't mean that literally, but it means that figuratively. So if you can imagine, if you are, maybe your car is outside and lots of snow fell over the night, and maybe you have a couple feet of snow, right? That is the idea of being snowed under, right? Your car really cannot move because there is so much snow on it. And that's what it means in a figurative speech, I guess you could say. So if you are snowed under at work, that just means you have so much work, you are just overwhelmed by by lots of projects, maybe lots of things at work, maybe at school. Maybe you are a student at school and you just have projects and papers and tests, lots and lots of things, and you feel like there's just a bunch of stuff on you, maybe lots of snow, as the expression says, right? So the example says, I am snowed under with projects and assignments. This just means you're overwhelmed. You have lots and lots of things to do. So in this phrasal verb, this one's a little different because it actually has the verb be in it. So many of the phrasal verbs, we just have a verb and the particle, but this one actually uses the be verb with snowed. So you'll have to conjugate the be verb here. For example, I used am. Another example for snowed under, it could be with work, maybe projects at work, it could be at school, but it could be maybe in your daily life. So maybe you are a mother and you have lots of things going on. Maybe your children have practice, or you have lots of laundry and dishes and things to do and so much to do. You feel overwhelmed. You can use this phrase here. You can say, I am feeling snowed under. I am so snowed under. That would just mean you're just overwhelmed. Okay, next we have is to jot down. This is a phrasal verb that means to quickly write. You could also say to take notes. But most of the time when you take notes, we don't use jot down. Jot down normally is when you are talking about it, doing it very quickly. So maybe you don't want to forget something, so you take a scrap piece of paper and write a quick note. Okay, that would be you're jotting something down. Okay, so for example, in the meeting, I jotted down a few notes. All right. Maybe if I am at work and I take a phone call and they want me to call them back, or somebody left a message for me and says they want me to call them back, I need to jot down their phone number and the message from what they said. Right? I'd quickly take a note on that. All right, the next one is to back up. All right, if you are backing something up, there are two meanings to this phrasal verb. So one is a literal meaning of back up. So right, if I'm standing here, I can back up, right? That's the literal meaning of backing up, to walk backwards. Or if you are in a car, you can back up your car. But in this situation, in talking about at work specifically, to back up something means to copy the files on a computer so that in case maybe your computer dies or it crashes, you have the files with you, maybe on a USB, or you've copied it on the cloud or something like that. So the example is Sarah backed up her computer in case it would ever crash. So it's to copy the files so you do not lose them. You back them up. All right, next one we have to hand in. Right, to hand in means to submit or to turn in. So turn in is another phrasal verb. I'll write that down for you as a bonus. To turn in. Okay, so to turn in or submit is to give or to submit to maybe your boss or your professor or coworker, for example. So we could say we have to hand in our weekly report by 5 p.m. Right, so if I have my papers here, I can submit, I hand in. And you can use this when you're talking about the computer as well. So if you need to send an email and submit something, you could also use the phrase hand in or turn in. Okay, next one we have is to run by. All right, if you run something by, and I should add, I didn't add this, but we add something, okay, to run something by, okay? So if we run something by someone, that means that you tell them an idea, or you mention something to someone. So for example, can I run an idea by you at lunch? That means can I tell you, can I explain to you about something at lunch? You could say, I'm going to run my idea by my coworker later today, right? You're telling something, or you're mentioning something to someone. All right, next we have to push back. All right, to push back, this actually has two meanings as well. So to push back could mean to change the time to a later date. So especially when you're talking about meetings, you could say, let's push back our 2 p.m. meeting to 3 p.m. That means to kind of like postpone, to change the date to later. It could be the same day, it could be next week, but to push back just means to postpone it later. Another meaning for push back is to resist or to oppose an idea. So maybe you are in a meeting with coworkers, maybe your boss, maybe many different people. You could, and maybe somebody gives an idea, and maybe you think, I don't know about that. And maybe you suggest, I'm not sure if I like that. What about this? What about this idea? If you maybe oppose or you resist an idea or something, you are pushing back. So you could say, in the meeting, I pushed back about his idea. I opposed it. I didn't let it go any further. I was almost not arguing, but pushing back against what he was suggesting. All right, 3 more. Next one, to let someone down. All right, if you let someone down, that means you disappoint them. So this is a negative thing. You don't want to let anyone down, right? You don't want anyone to be disappointed with you. So let's read this. Don't let me down. I'm counting on you to have a great report, right? It's very important that we don't let down our bosses. We don't let down our coworkers, right? We want them to be proud of us, and we want to make sure they are happy with our work, right? So we don't want them to be sad and be disappointed in us. Okay, so this is also another one here. This is another phrasal verb, to count on. So if you count on someone, that means you depend on them. So if I'm counting on you, that means I'm depending on you. I'm trusting you on something. All right, to take on. To take on. If you take something on, that means you are responsible for something. You become the owner of something new. Maybe you decide to do something. So the example says, do you have time to take on a new project? Okay, so if you take on something, that means it is now yours to deal with. So maybe I have two projects at work that I need to do. And my boss says, we have another project. Who wants to be the leader of this project? And I might say, I can do that. I can take it on. I can take on the project. And maybe they would say, well, do you have time to take on the project? Do you have time to be responsible and to manage, to be in charge of a new project? So that is what take on means. All right, and the last one, to run out of. All right, if we run out of something, that means you use it all up. There's no more left. So, for example, we ran out of staples and paper clips, right? That means there are no more. They are completely gone. All right, so these are some of the most common phrasal verbs that we use at work. Of course, there are many more, and you can find many, many more online, but I hope this was a good start for you as you are learning and you are talking about phrasal verbs. And hopefully you can practice some of these and be able to use them in your speech and listen for them when you are talking to English speakers. If you have any questions about phrasal verbs or about anything else, please comment below. Or if you have any suggestions, I would love to hear from you. I want to teach what you want to learn. All right, I am here for you. If you want to see part 1 and part 2, they are linked here. So please make sure you check those out and let me know if you would like to see any more videos, and I will definitely be there to help you. Thank you so much for joining me today. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to my page if you want to see more videos. Thank you so much. Have a great night.